In February 1801, the House of Representatives voted 36 times to decide who would be president. The election wasn't close. It was tied. And the man who broke that tie also helped write the amendment that made sure it could never happen again. He was dead within 4 years, shot by the man he beat. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that tie happened, why the amendment and the duel aren't connected the way you think, and what happened to both men after. Here's how you tie a presidential election under the original Constitution. Every elector casts 2 votes for president, full stop, no separate line for vice president. Whoever gets the most votes wins the top job. Whoever comes in second becomes vice president, even if the 2 of them can't stand each other. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr ran together, Democratic Republicans, Jefferson for president, Burr for vice president. The plan was simple. One elector quietly leaves Burr off the ballot, Jefferson finishes 1 vote ahead, done. Nobody coordinated it. Final count, Jefferson 73, Burr 73, a dead tie, and the Constitution had no answer for who was actually supposed to be president. The tie sent the election to the House of Representatives, 1 vote per state delegation, choosing only between Jefferson and Burr. The sitting House was controlled by Federalists, Hamilton's own party, and plenty of them actually preferred Burr, mostly because they hated Jefferson more than they liked him. Alexander Hamilton didn't agree, and he didn't stay quiet about it. Writing to Federalist Congressman James Bayard, whose vote mattered, Hamilton laid out exactly what he thought of Burr. He is a man of extreme and irregular ambition, that he is selfish to a degree which excludes all social affections, and that he is decidedly profligate. Then he went further. In that same letter, Hamilton called Burr a complete Catiline in his practice and principles, comparing him to the Roman senator, infamous for trying to overthrow the republic by force. 6 days later, writing to a different colleague, Hamilton used the exact same comparison again. This wasn't a passing insult. It was the argument Hamilton was actively making to swing votes. 36 ballots. About a week. On the final one, enough Federalist holdouts backed down. Jefferson became president. Burr, having come in second in his own tied election, became vice president, with the man now actively working against him. Here's the part almost everyone gets backwards. Most people who know this story assume it ends here, broken system, so Congress fixes it. That part's true. What most people get wrong is the timing. Congress proposed the fix, the 12th Amendment, in December 1803. It requires electors to cast separate, distinct ballots for president and vice president, closing the exact loophole that produced the 1800 tie. It was ratified June 15, 1804. Alexander Hamilton was shot on July 11, 1804, almost a full month later. The amendment didn't happen because of the duel. The amendment was already law before the duel happened. Both of them trace back to the same broken election. They just aren't the cause and effect most people assume. The 1800 election wasn't the only friction between these 2 men. A decade earlier, Burr had beaten Hamilton's own father-in-law for a Senate seat. In 1804, Burr ran for governor of New York, and Hamilton worked against that campaign too. Burr lost again. Then, in April 1804, a letter published in an Albany newspaper referenced a private dinner where Hamilton had allegedly called Burr dangerous. The letter's author added one more line, and never explained it, that he could describe a still more despicable opinion which General Hamilton has expressed of Mr. Burr. He never said what it was. That vagueness is what started the clock. Burr demanded a straight answer. June 18, 1804. You must perceive, sir, the necessity of a prompt and unqualified acknowledgment or denial. Hamilton wouldn't give him one. He said the accusation was too vague to respond to. Burr pushed again. Hamilton refused again. Back and forth, letter by letter, for over a week. 2 men who both had defensible positions on paper, and neither one willing to back down. On June 26th, Burr's second delivered the formal challenge. Here's where the story gets genuinely uncertain, and it's worth sitting with that instead of picking a side. July 11th, 1804. Weehawken, New Jersey. Both men crossed the Hudson by separate rowboats. Dueling was illegal in New York and New Jersey alike, so even getting there meant covering their tracks. 10 paces. Hamilton's second won the coin toss and gave the command. Historians don't agree on what happened next. The night before, Hamilton had written a private letter saying he intended to reserve and throw away my first fire, meaning deliberately miss. After he was shot, He reportedly told his doctor his own pistol was undischarged and still cocked, suggesting his shot went off involuntarily as the impact hit him, not on purpose. Both explanations exist in the record. Nobody alive can settle which one is true. What isn't disputed? Hamilton's shot went wide, Burr's did not. The ball struck Hamilton above the hip, tore through his liver, and lodged in his spine. He was carried back across the river, received communion, and stayed conscious through the day, surrounded by his family. He died the next morning, July 12, 1804. Here's a detail that's true and almost too strange to believe. Hamilton's own son, Philip, had died in a duel at nearly the same spot 3 years earlier, shot in almost the same place on his body, treated by the same doctor, dead the following day. Same outcome, same ground, 3 years apart. Burr was indicted for murder in 2 states. Neither charge ever reached a courtroom. He fled briefly to Georgia, then went back to Washington, and finished out his term as vice president, under indictment the entire time. 3 years later, in 1807, Burr was on trial again, not for murder, for treason, accused of conspiring to seize land in the Southwest and break it off from the United States. Chief Justice John Marshall himself presided. The case fell apart on a technicality. Burr hadn't even been present when the alleged act of treason occurred, and the Constitution requires an actual witnessed act, not just an accusation. He was acquitted. It didn't matter. A former vice president of the United States had just stood trial for treason. His political life was over either way. The system got fixed. The 12th Amendment still governs how we elect presidents today, exactly as written in 1804. But fixing the system didn't fix the 2 men who broke it. One of them was dead within weeks of the fix becoming law, shot by the man he beat. The other spent the rest of his life as a cautionary tale. The amendment solved a math problem. It never had a chance of solving the rest of it. If you want the next hidden clause behind the laws that shape this country, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.